It was a Saturday night, and we were cruising back from my parents' 40th anniversary dinner at their house in suburban Cleveland. My beat-up Ford F-150 rumbled along I-90, the engine's low growl mixing with the static of the radio. Emily sat shotgun, her face lit by her phone, scrolling like her life depended on it. She hadn't said a word since we left, which wasn't her style. Usually, she'd be tearing into the night, how my mom's lasagna was okay but dry, or how my dad's golf stories were cute but exhausting. Tonight, just silence, broken by the tap of her nails on the screen and a huff, like she was pissed at the air. I glanced over, trying to read her. Her blonde hair was still perfect, her red dress catching the streetlights. "You looked killer tonight, Em," I said, my voice light, tossing a compliment to test the waters. "That dress? Absolute fire as always." She didn't look up, just flicked her eyes at me for a split second, her voice flat with a sharp edge. "I know," she said, her tone dripping with dismissal. "But you don't get bonuses for pointing out the obvious anymore." My hands tightened on the wheel, but I kept my face neutral. Bonuses? Like I'm begging for her approval? I let out a short laugh, more reflex than humor. "All right, fair enough," I said, my voice calm but pointed. "Guess that means you're not cashing in on pretty either. I've been too generous with the freebies." Her fingers froze on the screen. She turned her head, slow, her eyes narrowing with a mix of surprise and irritation. "What's that supposed to mean?" she said, her voice rising, daring me to keep going, her tone sharp and accusing. I didn't flinch. "Exactly what I said, Em," I said, my voice steady but with a bite. "If compliments are a game now, I'm out. You want something from me, bring something to the table." I cranked the radio, letting Springsteen's rasp drown out her huffs. She sighed, loud and dramatic, but I wasn't biting. The rest of the drive was just the music and the road. She's fishing for a fight, I thought. Not tonight. The next morning, I woke to the smell of waffles and coffee. Emily was in the kitchen of our ranch-style house, humming some pop song, flipping batter in the waffle iron like we were in a damn commercial. She was all smiles, her hair in a messy bun, wearing my old Cavs t-shirt, acting like last night's jab never happened. "Morning, Jake," she said, her voice bright and fake, slapping my shoulder as she slid a plate in front of me. "Made your favorite. Extra syrup, right?" I sat at the counter, watching her move. Her cheer was too polished, her eyes too bright, like she was auditioning for Wife of the Year. She's not sorry, I thought. She's just resetting the board. I took a bite of the waffle, chewed slow, and said, my voice flat, "Tastes good. What's the occasion?" She laughed, too high-pitched, tossing her head back, her tone sugary. "No occasion. Just felt like it," she said, leaning against the counter with her coffee, watching me like she was waiting for me to fold. To say something sweet, to play her script. I didn't. "Cool," I said, my voice even, and kept eating. Her smile flickered, just for a second, but I caught it. She wasn't used to me not chasing her mood. I wasn't mad, wasn't sulking, just watching. Every move, every word, was a play, and I was done being her pawn. She tried again, leaning closer, her voice softer, teasing, with a hint of a pout. "You're so quiet today, Jake," she said. "What's up? You mad about last night?" I set my fork down, looked at her, my voice calm but firm. "Nah, not mad," I said, my tone steady. "Just thinking. You want to throw shade in the car, that's your call. But don't expect me to clap for it." Her eyes narrowed, but she kept the smile, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Wow, sensitive much?" she said, turning back to the waffle iron. "It was just a joke. Relax." I leaned back, crossing my arms, my voice sharp with a hint of a smirk. "Joke's only funny if we're both laughing, Em," I said. "You want to play like that, fine. Just don't be surprised when I don't play back." She froze, her coffee mug halfway to her lips, her voice tight. "God, Jake, you're so dramatic," she said, trying to laugh it off, but it came out shaky. "Eat your breakfast." I didn't respond, just finished my plate and headed to the garage. I had an old Mustang carburetor to rebuild, and it wasn't going to whine at me. She's fishing for control, I thought. Let her fish. The first big test came at a neighborhood block party a few days later. It was one of those summer deals, grills smoking, kids running around with water guns, classic rock blaring from a Bluetooth speaker. Emily and I showed up together, but you'd never know it. She was working the crowd, laughing too loud, touching people's arms, tossing her hair like she was in a rom-com. I hung back by the cooler, sipping a lemonade, talking to our neighbor Dave about his new truck. Then I saw her with Jess, her work friend who's always stirring shit. They were by the dessert table, whispering, giggling, glancing my way. Jess said something, and Emily laughed, loud and fake, her eyes flicking to me to make sure I noticed. Then she grabbed some guy's arm, Mark, a local realtor with a fake tan and a faker smile, leaning in close, her voice carrying. "Oh, Mark, you're hilarious," she said, her laugh grating, her tone performative, her hand lingering on his sleeve. Dave raised an eyebrow, glancing at me, his voice low. "She's in rare form tonight," he said, trying to gauge my reaction. I smirked, taking a sip of lemonade, my voice calm, but with an edge. "Yeah, she's putting on a show," I said. "Let's see how it plays out." I walked over, slow, my hands in my pockets, my voice loud and casual. "Hey, Em," I said, cutting through her laugh, my tone pointed but with a grin. "Having fun." She turned, her smile faltering for a split second, her voice too bright. "Oh, Jake," she said, with a forced laugh. "Just chatting with Mark. You know him, right?" Mark stuck out his hand, oblivious, his voice all salesman cheer. "Hey, man, good to see you." I shook his hand, firm, my eyes on Emily, my voice steady but mocking. "Yeah, good to see you too," I said. "Em, you going for an Oscar with this performance, or just trying to make a point?" Her face flushed, her laugh tight and nervous. "What are you talking about?" she said, her tone sharp, trying to play it off. "I'm just being friendly." Jess jumped in, her voice dripping with fake concern, a smirk on her face. "Yeah, Jake, chill out," she said. "You don't need to make a scene." I turned to Jess, my voice calm but cutting, a grin tugging at my lips. "Oh, I'm not making a scene," I said. "I'm just watching one. But if you're taking tickets, Jess, I'm not buying." The crowd nearby went quiet, a few people glancing over. Mark looked uncomfortable, muttering something about getting a drink and slipping away. Emily's eyes flashed, her voice low and furious. "You're embarrassing me," she said, her tone accusing, her face red. I stepped closer, my voice low but hard, my eyes locked on hers, a smirk on my lips. "Nah, Em, you're embarrassing yourself," I said. "You want to flirt in front of me to get a rise? Go for it. Just don't cry when I don't chase." She turned and stormed off toward the house, Jess trailing behind her, throwing me a dirty look. Dave clapped me on the shoulder, his voice impressed. "Damn, Jake," he said. "You don't mess around." I shrugged, grabbing another lemonade, my voice calm but satisfied. "Just calling it like I see it," I said. She wanted a reaction, I thought. She got one. The next morning, Emily was in the kitchen again, making coffee, her movements stiff, her voice soft and cautious. "Jake, about last night," she said, her tone low, almost pleading, her eyes not meeting mine. "I'm sorry. I got carried away. It was just stupid. I didn't mean anything by it." I leaned against the counter, sipping my coffee, my voice calm but guarded. "All right, Em," I said, my tone even. "I'll let the flirting slide this time. But that's a one-strike deal. Don't test me again. And don't think this changes the rest. You still owe me respect." Her eyes flicked up. Surprised, her voice soft. "I won't," she said, her tone shaky but relieved. "I promise." I nodded, my voice firm. "Good," I said. "But I'm watching." I wasn't running to hug her or playing the forgiving husband. I was giving her a chance on the flirting, not a pass on her attitude. Let's see if she means it, I thought. One more stunt, and we're done. A couple days later, my buddy Tom swung by the house. He's a welder, big guy with a bigger laugh, always good for a reality check. We were in the garage, cracking open a couple of Sprites, talking about the Browns' latest choke job. Emily was inside, probably texting her friends, but I caught her glancing out the window every few minutes, like she was keeping tabs. Tom noticed too. "Yo, Jake," he said, lowering his voice, wiping soda off his beard. "What's up with him? She's been weird. Saw her at the brew last week with her girls, acting like she was single or something." I raised an eyebrow, leaning against the workbench, my voice calm but curious. "Yeah? How's that?" I said. He shrugged, looking uneasy, his voice low. "Just loud, you know? Flirting with the bartender, laughing like she was putting on a show. Didn't mention you once." Thought it was weird. I nodded, slow, processing my voice hard. Good to know, I said. She's been testing me. Thinks she can push, and I'll just take it. Tom shook his head, cracking a grin, his voice firm. Man, you're too sharp for that, he said. She's got no idea who she's messing with. I laughed, short and sharp, my voice carrying a smirk. Oh, she's learning, I said. Emily came out then, her phone in hand, all smiles, her voice bright and performative. Hey, Tom, she said, leaning against the doorway, her hip cocked. You guys talking about me? Tom glanced at me, then back at her, his tone flat. Nah, just football, he said, not buying her act. She didn't miss a beat, her voice teasing but with a sting. Jake's been all moody lately, she said, her eyes flicking to me. Maybe you can cheer him up, Tom. I didn't look at her, just kept wiping down a wrench, my voice steady but with a bite. I'm good, Em, I said. But if you're bored, maybe call up your bartender friend. Sounds like you two had a blast. Her smile froze, her eyes flashing with irritation, her voice tight. Wow. Jake, jealous much? She said, trying to flip it back on me, her laugh forced. It was just drinks with the girls. I turned, looking her dead in the eye, my voice low and sharp, a smirk on my lips. Jealous? Nah, I said. Just not a fan of the show you're putting on. You want to play single, go for it. Just don't expect me to buy a ticket. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her face flushing. Tom coughed, hiding a grin. I'm, gonna head out, he said, clapping me on the shoulder, his voice amused. Catch you later, Jake. As he left, Emily crossed her arms, glaring at me, her voice low and accusing. That was embarrassing, she said, her tone sharp. You made me look like an idiot in front of your friend. I shrugged, setting the wrench down, my voice calm but cold. You did that yourself, Em, I said. I'm just calling what I see. You want respect? Start giving it. She stormed back inside, the door slamming behind her. I went back to the Mustang. She's still playing, I thought, and I'm still watching. 2 days later, we were at her brother Mike's place for a family dinner. Mike's a solid guy, works construction, always got my back. His wife, Sarah, was there too, along with their 2 kids, tearing around the backyard with a soccer ball. The table was loaded, burgers, coleslaw, potato salad, cans of Sprite, and lemonade. Emily was on her phone before we sat down, texting someone, laughing under her breath, her tone light but calculated. I didn't ask who. Didn't need to. I'd overheard her earlier, talking to Mike on the phone while I was grabbing a drink from the fridge. Yeah, everything's fine, she'd said, her voice low but not low enough, with a hint of annoyance. Jake's just playing the victim, acting all hurt. He'll get over it. Victim? I almost laughed out loud. Me, the guy who's been keeping our house afloat, fixing her car, eating her attitude for months? She was rewriting the story, painting me as the problem. Classic Emily. At dinner, she was all charm, chatting with Mike about his new job, joking with Sarah about some reality show, her voice bright and performative. But every time she mentioned me, it was with a condescending twist, her tone mocking. Oh, Jake's been so busy in the garage, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, a smirk on her face. He's got his little projects to keep him occupied. Mike raised an eyebrow, glancing at me, his voice cautious. That's not a bad thing, he said, his tone even. Jake's good with his hands. Keeps things running. Emily laughed, short and sharp, her voice cutting. Yeah, running away from me. Maybe, she said, her eyes flicking to me, waiting for a reaction, her tone laced with mockery. I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang, my voice calm but loud enough for the table to hear. Nah, Em, I'm right here, I said, my tone steady but with a bite, a smirk tugging at my lips. Those little projects pay the mortgage and keep your car from breaking down. You're welcome. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth, her eyes flashing with irritation, her face flushing. Mike coughed into his napkin, hiding a grin. Sarah's eyes widened, but she stayed quiet. Emily recovered fast, tossing her hair with a forced laugh, her voice tight. Oh, come on, Jake, don't be so sensitive, she said, trying to play it off. I'm just saying you're in your own world lately. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her, my voice low and sharp, a grin on my lips. In my own world? Nah, I'm just not living in yours, I said. You want to talk about worlds? Let's talk about the one where I'm the bad guy for not bowing down every time you snap your fingers. The table went dead quiet, the clink of forks stopping. Even the kids outside seemed to pause. Mike cleared his throat, his voice awkward. Anybody want more burgers? He said, trying to break the tension. Emily's smile was gone, her voice low and accusing, her eyes narrowing. You're making a scene, she said, her tone sharp and defensive. I shrugged, taking a sip of lemonade, my voice calm but firm. No scene, I said. Just facts. You don't get to rewrite me to fit your story, Em. Sarah jumped in, her voice cautious, almost nervous. Guys, maybe we should. No, let's hear it. Mike cut in, looking at Emily, his voice firm. What's going on, Em? You've been poking at him all night. Emily's eyes flashed, her voice cracking just enough to betray her, her tone defensive. Nothing's going on, she said, too quickly. Jake's just overreacting. As usual. I laughed, short and sharp, my voice carrying a mocking edge. Overreacting? Nah, I said, leaning back with a grin. I'm just done paying for your disrespect. You want to act like I'm your roommate instead of your husband? Cool. But don't expect me to keep footing the bill for it. Mike leaned back, whistling low, his voice impressed. Damn, Jake, he said. You don't hold back. Never did, I said, my eyes still on Emily, my tone hard. She looked away first, grabbing her phone like it was a lifeline. The rest of dinner was tense, but I didn't care. I'd said what needed saying. She's losing ground, I thought. And she knows it. The next week was a chess match. Emily dialed it up, acting like everything was fine, but her moves were louder, more desperate. She'd leave her phone out, notifications pinging, knowing I'd see them. She'd make plans without telling me, then drop them casually, her voice light but calculated. Oh, I'm meeting Jess for coffee. Didn't I mention? She was testing me, waiting for me to snap, to give her something to work with. I didn't. I kept my routine, work at my auto shop, gym, garage. I stopped asking where she was going, stopped offering to pick her up. She noticed. One night, she came home late, tossing her bag on the couch, her voice loud and accusing. You didn't even text to check on me, she said, her tone sharp, like I'd failed some test. I was at the kitchen table, going over invoices for the shop, my voice calm, but with a hint of a smirk. Didn't know I was your secretary, I said, not looking up. You're a grown woman. You good? She stood there, hands on her hips, her voice rising with irritation. You're being a jerk, she said, her tone cutting. What's your problem, Jake? You're acting like I'm the enemy. I set the pen down, leaned back, and looked at her, my voice low and hard, a grin on my lips. You're not the enemy, Em, I said. You're just not my priority when you treat me like an option. Figure out what you want. I'm not chasing you to find out. Her mouth opened, then closed, her face flushing. For once, she didn't have a comeback. She stormed off to the bedroom, the door slamming behind her, her footsteps heavy. I went back to my invoices. She's out of place, I thought. Time to change the game. A few days later, I was at the shop, elbow deep in a Chevy's engine, when Mike called. Yo, Jake, he said, his voice low, like he didn't want anyone to overhear. You good, man? That dinner was intense. I wiped my hands on a rag, leaning against the workbench, my voice calm but firm. I'm fine, I said. Just done eating her bullshit. She's been pulling this for months, Mike. Thinks she can push, and I'll just take it. He sighed, his voice heavy. Yeah, I've seen it, he said. She's always been like that, you know? Even when we were kids. Always testing people, seeing how far she can go. But, man, she's my sister, so it's hard to say this, you don't deserve that. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me, my voice steady. Appreciate it, man, I said. I'm handling it. You sure? He said, his tone cautious. 'Cause she's telling Sarah you're overreacting, but I saw her face at dinner. She knows she's screwing up. I laughed, low, my voice carrying a smirk. Yeah, she knows, I said. But knowing and changing are two different things. I'm not waiting around for her to figure it out. Mike was quiet for a second, then said, his voice firm. You're a good dude, Jake. Just don't let her drag you down. I hung up, feeling lighter. Mike's words weren't news, but they were a reminder. I wasn't crazy. Emily's games were her problem, not mine. The final straw came at a friend's barbecue, a week after the block party. It was at Tom's place, a big backyard thing with burgers, cornhole, and a cooler full of Sprite and lemonade. Emily showed up late, all smiles, her hair perfect, her dress tight, her voice loud and performative, like she was walking a red carpet. I was tossing a cornhole bag with Tom, keeping it low-key, when she made her entrance, laughing loud, drawing eyes. She zeroed in on me, but not to talk. Instead, she sidled up to some guy, Chris, a friend of Tom's from the gym, all muscles and no brains. She was all over him, laughing at his dumb jokes, touching his arm, her voice carrying across the yard. "Oh, Chris, you're too much," she said, her laugh fake, her tone grating, her eyes flicking to me to make sure I was watching. Tom caught it too, leaning in, his voice low and annoyed. "She's at it again, huh?" he said. "What's her deal, man?" I smirked, tossing the cornhole bag, my voice calm but sharp. "She's trying to get a rise," I said. "Let's see how she likes it when I don't bite." I walked over, slow, my hands in my pockets, my voice loud and casual, with a mocking edge. "Yo, I said, cutting through her laugh, my tone pointed. "You and Chris starting a comedy tour, or what?" She turned, her smile faltering, her voice too bright, almost panicked. "Oh, Jake," she said, with a forced laugh. "Just catching up. Chris is hilarious." Chris grinned, clueless, his voice loud and cheerful. "Yeah, man, just telling her about my gym routine." I nodded, my eyes on Emily, my voice steady but with a devastating smirk. "Cool, sounds like a blast," I said. You must love the show. You're giving him a standing ovation." Her face flushed, her laugh tight and nervous, her voice sharp. "You're so dramatic," she said, trying to flip it back, her tone defensive. "It's just a conversation." I stepped closer, my voice low and cutting, my eyes locked on hers, a grin on my lips. "Conversation? Nah, that's a performance," I said. "You promised you'd cut that flirting shit, Em. Guess promises don't mean much to you. So here's the deal. We're done. Don't bother coming home tonight. I'm not playing this game anymore." The backyard went quiet, people glancing over, their murmurs stopping. Tom's jaw dropped, his eyes wide, his voice low. "Holy shit, Jake," he muttered, respect in his tone. A couple of guys nearby nodded, one giving me a look like he'd just seen a knockout punch. Chris looked confused, muttering something about getting a drink and bailing, his footsteps quick. Emily's eyes widened, her voice low and furious, her face red. "You're serious?" she said, her tone cracking. "You're doing this here?" I laughed, short and sharp, my voice calm but final, with a cold edge. "Yeah, I'm doing this here," I said. "You wanted an audience, you got one. Pack your shit, Em. I'm done with your games." She turned and stormed off toward the house, her heels clicking on the patio, her breath shaky. Tom clapped me on the shoulder, his voice low and impressed. "Damn, Jake," he said. "That was cold. Respect, man." I shrugged, grabbing another lemonade, my voice calm but satisfied. "Had to," I said. She crossed the line one too many times. I grabbed my keys and headed to my truck, leaving her to figure out her next move. She's out of tricks, I thought, and I'm out. That same evening, I was at home, sitting on the couch, watching a rerun of the Browns game, when Emily walked in. She was all smiles, tossing her bag on the counter, her voice light and teasing, like nothing happened. "Hey, Jake," she said, laughing, her tone playful but forced. "You're not still mad about the barbecue, are you? It was just fun, come on." I set my Sprite down, stood up, and looked at her, my voice calm but cold, with a hard edge. "Fun," I said, my tone low and cutting. "You think flirting in my face after I gave you a chance is fun? Nah, that's disrespect. And I'm done eating it." Her smile faded, her voice rising with irritation, her eyes flashing. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, her tone sharp. "It was nothing. You're acting like I betrayed you." I stepped closer, my voice steady but devastating, my eyes locked on hers. "You did betray me," I said. "Not with Chris, not with Mark. With every little game you've played for months. Testing me, pushing me, acting like I'm here to serve your ego. I gave you a shot to fix it. You didn't. So here's the deal. You're leaving tonight. This is the end. You don't live here anymore." Her face froze, her voice cracking, her tone desperate. "Jake, wait," she said, her hands shaking. "I didn't mean." I pulled my wedding ring off, tossed it at her feet, the metal clinking on the hardwood, my voice low and final, with a cold smirk. "Here's your ring," I said. "You're done here. Get out. This isn't a request. It's the finale." She stared at the ring, her eyes welling up, her voice soft and broken. "Jake, please," she said, her tone pleading. "I'm sorry. I'll change." I shook my head, my voice calm but unyielding, my eyes hard. "Sorry doesn't fix patterns," I said. "You wanted to play games. You lost. This is your last time walking in here. Go." She stood there, frozen, her breath shaky, then grabbed her bag, her hands trembling. She walked out, the door closing behind her with a soft click. I locked it, turned the game back on, and took a sip of my Sprite. Game over, I thought. And I'm done playing. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a text from her. "I didn't mean to lose you. I'm sorry." I read it, then put the phone down. No reply. She'd made her choices, and I'd made mine. I went to work, hit the gym, grabbed a burger with Mike. Life kept moving, and I moved with it. 3 months later, I was at a coffee shop in downtown Cleveland, grabbing a latte before a meeting with a new client. I'd moved out by then, got a small apartment near the shop, just me and my dog, Rusty. Life was simple: work, gym, beers with the guys. No drama, no games. I was good. Then I saw her. Emily, sitting alone at a corner table, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, her eyes tired. She saw me and stood up, her voice soft, almost shaky, her tone pleading. "Jake, can we talk?" she said, her hands fidgeting with her cup. I nodded, sitting across from her, my voice calm but firm. "Sure," I said. "What's up?" She swallowed hard, her eyes not meeting mine, her voice low and broken. "I messed up," she said. "I didn't realize what I had. I was stupid. I'm sorry, Jake. I've changed." I leaned back, sipping my coffee, letting her words hang, my voice steady but with a cold edge. "I hear you, Em," I said. "But apologies don't erase patterns. You wanted a game. I wanted a partner. We were never playing the same board." Her eyes welled up, her voice cracking, her tone desperate. "I know I was wrong," she said. "Can't we try again? I'll do better." I set my cup down, looked her in the eye, my voice low and sharp, with a final, devastating smirk. "You didn't change because you saw the light, Em," I said. "You changed because you lost. I'm not your prize. I'm the lesson you'll never forget." Her face crumpled, her hands shaking, her voice breaking. "Jake, please." I stood up, my voice calm but final, cutting through her plea. "Take care, Em," I said. "You'll be fine." "But I'm better." I walked out, the bell on the door jingling behind me. The air felt lighter, cleaner. I wasn't angry, wasn't bitter, just free. Now, I'm good. My shop's thriving, got 2 new mechanics, and we're booked out for weeks. I hang with Mike and Sarah most weekends, grilling steaks, watching the Browns lose again. My apartment's small, but it's mine. Rusty's snoring on the couch as I write this, and that's all the company I need. No games, no tests, just life. Clean, simple, honest. Emily, I don't know what she's up to. Don't care, either. She burned her own bridges. I just locked the gate.